Welcome back to the Hockey Show, and today we are discussing the game that happened last night between the Panthers and the Hurricanes, where the Panthers, for the second time in a row, and thank God it didn't go 4 overtimes this time, for Matthew Tkachuk to once again send the Florida Panthers out of the rink, and now they're flying home to Florida for Game 3 after their 2 road wins, having a 2-0 series lead, which is so unlikely, as they have definitely been the lesser of the two teams in this series so far. Hands down, easily, coming from, I like both teams. I mean, I love the Hurricanes. I've been cheering for them all year. I've been touting them as the next Stanley Cup champions for the entire year, but I love Florida, and they have easily been the lesser of the two teams here. And that is the biggest story for the Hurricanes, and kind of where I was scared for them going into the playoffs, and kind of like my issue with them and sort of the Seattle Kraken, because they don't really have a legitimate superstar like a Matthew Tkachuk who will finish the job, a like Sasha Barkov who will do a between-the-legs, incredible-looking move to score a goal when given the opportunity. Yes, guys like Sebastian Aho, superstar player, right? Absolutely. Brent Burns, incredible defenseman. Hall of Famer in my eyes, even if he doesn't win a Stanley Cup. I just think for he's an icon. He's an iconic player, right? This whole team is amazing, but the issue is that they're missing that one, like, that X-Factor player. And I know, like, Sebastian Aho's an X-Factor player, but in EA NHL. But what I mean is, like, real-life X-Factor players like Matthew Tkachuk, like Sasha Barkov. These guys who are the all-stars of the league, that are the generational talents, right? That's what the Hurricanes are missing. Not saying Sebastian Aho is a incredible player, but I think we can all admit that he's not like the guy. If he was put on a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning, yeah, he'd probably get more points, but he's not Braden Point. He's not Sebastian Aho and Braden Point are pretty different players, but you know what I mean. He's not a Nikita Kucherov. He's not a Crosby. He's not a McKinnon. He's not a Jason Robertson or Rupe Hintz for that fact in the playoffs. And that's the issue with the Hurricanes, that they don't have a finisher guy. They don't have the assassin. They don't have that killer instinct on this team. Because Carolina, they just can't seem to learn to finish the job. And I'm sure you've had this when you play against, like, on NHL. When you play NHL or any game for that matter, where you are playing good, but you can't seem to finish the job, right? You don't have that like, bam, like, score. That's kind of the issue with the Maple Leafs in the playoffs. Now, saying that Marner and Matthews, those guys aren't incredibly talented players, but they don't have that finish, that OT hero, that guy who's going to stand up in the playoffs. That's the issue with the Maple Leafs, that those guys, that core, are not playoff players. And the Hurricanes, their guys are playoff players, but they don't have a guy on this team to be like, okay, I've had enough. Bobrovsky isn't stopping me this time, and pull out the spinorama around the net, toe drag, and top shelf, right? That's a guy like Barkov, like Matthew Tkachuk, right? That is what the Panthers have the edge over the Hurricanes. Because the Hurricanes, they are all over the Florida Panthers. 38 shots, and they only get 1 goal. They kept the Panthers to, 3 shots in the third period or something like that? And they had like 11 or 8 or something. 3 shots the entire period. Great for the Carolina Hurricanes, right? Like, they are all over them. The Canes, they started strong, they played strong. The commentators kept saying that they thought it was more towards Florida. I personally think, yeah, it did, like, even out a little bit, but I still definitely gave the edge to the Hurricanes. They were definitely faster, they were quicker, they were making better plays, getting more. Maybe the Panthers were getting a couple more scoring chances. They said kind of like when, like, the better team makes a mistake, it just spills out of control more, you know, like the bigger they are, the harder they fall. When the Hurricanes give up an opportunity to the Panthers, it's like a more dire situation than the other way around. So, to me, the entire game, Carolina, all over the Panthers, right? But Bobrovsky, just phenomenal. I think with how he's played in this Carolina series just so far, I was between like, okay, is it Bob? Is it Kachuk if they win it? Who gets the Conn Smythe? Maybe even count another player in there. But I think this definitely wins it now. Sergei Bobrovsky, the Hurricanes, if it wasn't for him, would have won this game hands down. The Panthers played good. No doubt about that. The Panthers definitely played good. They were not just pushovers, but Hurricanes. They were just skating around them. They're making better plays, better passes, better setups. The issue is that not a lot of times am I like, oh man, like I was with what Bobrovsky could do, especially that second period, that slide over blocker save. But other than that, like it didn't feel like the difference between like the Panthers and the Hurricanes is on that play when they get the backdoor shot and Bobrovsky makes that save, is that with that's the Hurricanes plays. They shoot it, oh, he saved it. With the Panthers, they would shoot it and it's the save, and then they would crash the net and maybe squeak one through when Sam Bennett gets in there and like chips it in, right? That's the difference between these two teams, is that the Panthers are like not that the Hurricanes really aren't determined, but the Panthers squad with guys, especially guys like Bennett and Verhaeghe and Kachuk especially, these guys are like, we're jamming this puck in the back of the net. We're going to shove it down your throats given the opportunity to, and that's what happened in this game. With the Panthers, they only got like 23 shots on net, right? And which seems like more than they actually deserve to have. But when they got their good chances to score, they scored on them. That overtime, quickly, in the power play, Brent Burns makes a terrible mistake jamming I forget which way it was, but someone shoves their stick, I'm sure you've seen it, into the gap of the skate and trips up his own player. And the Panthers, yes, I like that the TNT guys, the analysts, Biz and them, they said this in the post game, that saying like, yeah, they were given a great opportunity with the two defensemen screwing up. Well, for one, those two defensemen should not be in the corner together at all. That's the biggest no-no in the world. You never have your two defenders ever sinking below the line. That's like defense, not number one, but like number 3. And they make that mistake for one, but then it even gets worse when they trip each other up. And then, the thing is, though, is the Panthers still need to score the goal. And they don't just do, like, the thing that I think a lot of people would do, and it's like, oh, the defenseman's got the puck, just shoot it. No, they send it in, and it's like, oh, yes, backdoor one-timer, but Ronta could save that. So instead, they go tick-tack to Reinhart, and then Reinhart sends it over, I think it was Reinhart, to Kachuk, and then the commentary said this as well, Matthew Kachuk doesn't just shoot it into the net, he kind of holds it and does a slight toe drag for the open space to rip it in the back of the net, right? The Panthers easily could have done the Carolina thing, and I'm not trying to rag on them for this, but I'm just saying this is the difference between a Matthew Kachuk and a Sebastian Aho, well, maybe not, whatever, and he cradles it and shoots it in, right? They never just shot it for just like, oh, those guys are down. Over to Reinhart. Oh, man, he just smothered the puck, right? Instead of Reinhart getting in, then trying to turn and trying to just like jam it in or something, he gets it and passes. I know it's like, well, they're NHL players. They do that all the time. And it's like, no, you see it happen all the time where they just make not the silly shot, but just the bad shot that's like, like for a second, the crowd's like, oh, wow. But for someone like me, and if you actually pay attention, it's like that would never go in. And the Panthers, they did their job. They scored the goals when they needed to. They survived. They played good enough defense to really keep the Hurricanes from having too many dangerous opportunities. They survived the Hurricanes' onslaught, and they finished the job. They were the ones that score on their opportunities. Barkov gets a run towards the net, goes between the legs, unbetween the legs, in the back of the net, right? These guys score when they're given the opportunity to score. Kind of like with the Dallas Stars, is that when you give them the chance to score, even if you only give them 2, they're going to score on both of those. While a team like Vegas, like Carolina, yeah, they're going to score their goals, but they're going to fight for them, and they might get 15 chances to score, but only score 5 times, right? Teams like the Panthers and Dallas, they're scoring the 4 out of 5, right? They're scoring the 9 out of 10. The issue is that the other team that they're playing usually is more likely to not give up that many chances and generate more opportunities. And I know that might sound ridiculous to say, but just kind of pay attention, you'll notice it as well. So, overall, this game, going forward from this one, Carolina, I think this is going to be, I know I said it last time, I think that was a heart-wrenching loss that they had in overtime, but then they actually did fight back. I was surprised back that, but I do truly believe that this time Carolina is due for a bad game. And going to Florida, now that they're going to be at home, and we know how Carolina is in years past of playing on the road, and with the momentum going towards Florida, you got to start thinking like these Carolina guys. They're down 2-0. Commentary have said this before, is that when you start to lose and you start having issues scoring, you try to be too perfect, right? Trying to get the perfect shot on net when it's very hard to do that. I mean, every once in a while, you will, like, guys like Alex Ovechkin, right? They're icons because they have perfected the perfect shot, right? If every player had that, everyone would be Alex Ovechkin, and they're just not. So being too perfect doesn't work because it ends up just not getting anything going. What's better? Brent Burns trying to rip a wrist shot from the top of the circles and it just goes in the Bobrovsky's glove, or to try to just send it like a lob in, getting some havoc started, and finding the backdoor goal, or that gritty push in the puck net. Whatever. You know what I mean? The chaos in front of the net goal, right? That one is going to generate probably more of an opportunity to score than Brent Burns just trying to rip it in. Because if he could do that, he would do it more often. So, overall, this game going forward, I like Florida's odds, obviously being up 2-0 as well, but also just like that momentum and the starting of doubt for the Hurricanes, especially this far into the playoffs. Those guys, the tension's like, oh my god, and especially if they score first fast. And going in the next game, the Panthers can score the first goal in like the first 2 minutes of the game. I think that'll really set up the Hurricanes for starting to really doubt themselves. But the Canes, if they could just learn to finally score a goal and get a couple more of those gritty or just smarter goals to get in the back of the net, they easily could jump right back into this game. Easily tie it up on the road 2-2. I would not be surprised if they did it. They have obviously shown in this series that they are the better team. They just aren't the better team at scoring goals, which is the most important thing in the world. They don't ask you how, they ask you how many. And the Florida Panthers are up 2-0 against the Hurricanes in the unlikeliest way. And on the flip side, on the West, it's the right way around. Vegas is up 1-0 after being the better team. Florida's up 2-0 being the lesser team. So going into tonight, we'll see what happens with Vegas and them. But that's all I've got to say about this one. So thank you for watching this. That's all I've got to say. If you've enjoyed it and gotten to this point, please, I'm begging you, pick up your free subscription. And until next time, I have been your host. Have an amazing day. And too sweet and ta-ta for now.